Perfect timing, Tim. Thank you for joining. Tim is a person who doesn't need an introduction. Tim is going to talk to us today about leading a startup through crises. So Tim Draper is the founded Draper Associates, DFJ, and the Draper Venture Network, a global network of venture capital funds. He funded Baidu, Tesla, Skype, SpaceX, Twitch, Hotmail, Focus Media, Robinhood, Cruise Automation, Carta, Planet, PTC, and 15 other unicorns at the seed stage. He is a supporter and global thought leader for entrepreneurs everywhere, and is a leading spokesman for Bitcoin, blockchain, ICOs, and cryptocurrencies. Having won the Bitcoin US Marshals auction in 2014, he's invested in over 50 crypto companies and has led investments in Coinbase, Ledger, Tezos, and Bancor, among others. So without further ado, let's welcome Tim, and take it away, Tim.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, XTC, and for putting this whole thing together. And I'm sorry we're not all together. We were meant to be all in Paris, I think. And so thank you for that, and for organizing this amazing event. I think the way I would start is, let's before I get into sort of leading your team through a difficult time, let's talk about what I think has happened here, and then we can kind of take it from there and figure out where the world is going. Here's what I think has happened. I think we had a global pandemic, but I think we had the worst policy decision in the history of the world by locking up everybody and shutting down all of business. That, I think the long-term effects of that are going to be tremendously bad. But on the good side, you who are entrepreneurs can lead us out of that. Think about what you've got now. 31 million Americans are unemployed, probably 10, 15 times that globally. And these are good people who have been employed and driven, and so that we've got a big opportunity as entrepreneurs to capture all of that brain power and move it in a new way. And it's entrepreneurs like you who are the ones who create the value, who create the jobs. The large companies of the world create zero net new jobs, and it's all the small businesses and the entrepreneurs that drive employment for all those new jobs. Here are a couple of the other things that have happened. One is people have been trapped in place, and so they've started to experiment with things. And so where a lot of you and a lot of early adopters are very familiar and facile with VR, all of a sudden, a bunch of people are trying VR. In fact, they can't ship enough Oculuses to get into people's hands. And a lot of people are saying, well, wait, what is this Bitcoin thing? And so Bitcoin wallets are going through the roof. People are buying Bitcoin and moving out of their banks. The banks are freaking out because they don't control your money anymore. Now you control it with, a little ledger. And they aren't taking 2.5% to 4% every time you swipe your credit card, and they're not able to manage your assets anymore. And all of a sudden you've got control over all that. And then we've got this stuck in place that makes you, where they shut down the hospitals and they shut down the schools. And so all the remote education and the remote healthcare has come to light as something that's kind of interesting. So these were all technologies that were kind of early on, where we were backing companies years ago that were doing these things. Well, they've just jumped across the chasm. And so we're now, that's mainstream. So, using remote education, remote healthcare, Bitcoin wallets, VR, that is now commonplace. Most of the population of innovators, at least, and many of the people of the world are now able to use these things. That's opened up a new world a little faster than it probably would have been opened up before the crisis. Another thing that happened was that a lot of people stayed at home, and about half the population, when I ask people, how do you like it? About half of them say, I want to stay at home. I want to do my work from home. And the other half are saying, boy, I miss the office. I really want to be in the office. Well, what that means to me is that there will be less demand for commercial real estate, and there will be less traffic on the roads because a lot of people will do their work from home, or will alternate back and forth from home to work, from working at home to working at work. That's going to change society in a pretty big way. I think travel, I kind of flip people out by saying, yeah, I want to come to Korea for this big event. Yeah, I want to be there. I want to be there in person. And they're saying, wait, aren't we just doing a big Zoom call? And I think that people are going to want to get back to traveling, but I think it's going to be very slow to get there. And a couple of other things that have happened, the stock market's soaring. A lot of that's because we flooded the market with dollars. The U.S. piled a bunch of dollars in. And so nobody knew what to do with all that extra liquidity, and they just threw it into the stock market. I think the stock market is definitely artificially high. I would not count on that. As an entrepreneur, I would not count on that getting a price to earnings ratio of 1,000 when you go public. And so there are all these weird and interesting dynamics. And you have an opportunity right now as an entrepreneur to take the big risks. This is your time. This is, the world is counting on you to lead them in whatever direction you want to lead them, but lead them into a new world. We need this new world. We need to get past all of the nationalism and past all the trade wars and all that other stuff. We need to be open and global, and we need to be a much bigger and better communicative world. And it's up to you as entrepreneurs to lead people to that promised land. You will create all the net new jobs. You'll show us a better world. You'll create happier customers, everything else. As a leader, and this is a little bit more the title of the talk, as a leader, people are really looking to you for guidance. If people are at home doing their work, over time, they're going to start saying, well, wait, why am I doing this? What does it matter? Who cares? Does it? So as a leader, you got to be saying, here's where we're going. This is what we need to do. This is what we're going to accomplish. And this is what the world's going to look like when we're done. And you need to always be communicating with people much, much more. And then you've got to be looking and saying, do a little more micromanagement and say, here are the tasks I want you to do, and hand out a lot more tasks than you would have if you were in the office. That world you really need to do. Then the other thing you need to do, I think, is get your teams back together and get back to normal. I just heard from a mayor that The reason they're telling everybody to wear a mask and stay, social distance and all that is so that they don't get sued for the bad policy that they created that shut down all those restaurants and all those retailers. So this is a really weird time where politicians are realizing that they have overstepped. They're not backtracking. They're just trying to push it back on you so that they don't get sued. This is going to be a really weird time. Some politicians are using this as a way of controlling their people, and some of them are saying, "Hey, time to get back to normal." And so we actually, as a humanity, have an opportunity now to have an anthropological leap back to global and away from this weird tribalism that we have where you're locked in place and got to wear a mask and do all that stuff. So as leaders of the future, you are leaders of the future, you're entrepreneurs, that's the nature. You can start with your own team and get them back to work. You have to make it kind of optional to start with, but eventually everybody's going to want to be back at work. It's fun. I brought everybody back to work. We're having a blast. So you have a huge opportunity because you have such a huge crisis. You have an opportunity to hire the best and the brightest people because there's so many of them that have been laid off. You have an opportunity to lead the world to your destination where you feel the world should go. You have an opportunity to inspire your people. And you have an opportunity to show what you're made of. Things are going to be tough. Venture capital is not going to come as easy. There are, even though the public markets are going crazy, the venture guys are shoring up all of the companies that they have in their portfolios that are not virtual. So you have that. You have hang on, I'm going to open up my chat box in case anybody has any questions. So this is a special time. Now, I'm going to tell you a few things where the way I look at venture capital, the way I look at entrepreneurs, what is it that I look for in an entrepreneur? It's all about the people, but it's also all about the markets, and it's all about the technology. It's all about sort of that triad. So what I see in the world today is, first, I go back and I say, wow, the internet transformed some pretty big industries: information, communications, entertainment, gaming, bunch of great industries that are in the hundreds of billions of dollars. They're really big industries. Well, there are now technologies that are going to lead us to transforming some of the biggest industries of the world. And those are where you combine artificial intelligence with surveillance, with Bitcoin, the blockchain, smart contracts. You start putting those things together, and you transform banking. You transform the insurance business. You transform healthcare, and I'll go into that in some detail. You transform government, transform real estate. All those industries now are having a fundamental, are fundamentally going to be changed by these new technologies. And technology wins all the wars. Every war has been won through some technological leap. And it's not just wars, it's industry battles, it's whatever. The winner is always the one who is the most technologically savvy and the one who drives forward with the best technology. So let's take, first, banking. Banking is going to be completely transformed by Bitcoin and the various cryptocurrencies, because when I went to my banker and I said, well, I'd like to move this money to this this other place. And they said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm buying Bitcoin. This was a couple of weeks ago. And they said, oh no, first tried to talk me out of it, and then kind of, gave up and realized and kind of came to Jesus and said, we've got a problem. A lot of people are moving their money to crypto. And what that means to me is that there's a better technology, and banks were the trusted third party for many years. Well, now there's a trusted third party that hasn't been hacked, knock on wood, hasn't been hacked. And the banks are getting hacked all the time. It doesn't give up 2.5% to 4% every time you swipe a credit card. It doesn't, you're not handing your assets over to somebody who then relends them and puts them at risk. It's a new world for banking. Well, insurance, similarly. Think of this. I can create an insurance company with just simply an actuary, some surveillance, and smart contracts. I can actually put together an insurance company. Well, that's going to really transform insurance. My insurance friends are not going to be happy with this, because somebody can do it without all the lawyers and all of the insurance agents and the insurance detectives and because the surveillance is going to be able to say, yes, I see your house was burned down, or yes, that car was flipped over. They're going to be able to see that from satellite or balloon or whatever. And as an insurance company, you're going to be able to provide much better service. When there's a claim, you're going to get your money right away. And and they're going to be able to determine whether there's fraud or whatever. And if you think about what government is, it's a pile of insurance companies. It's healthcare insurance. It's unemployment insurance. It's workman's compensation insurance. It's your pension. It's Social Security insurance. It's insurance. 80% of what government does is insurance. Well, you can create a government. You can go 11 miles offshore and create a government that provides all those insurance packages. You can put one up in space. So my guess is the governance is going to change. At least the existing governments are going to have to become more efficient and more effective and provide better service, or their customers, the citizens of their country, will move to another country. This is the beginning of trillion-dollar industries that are going to go through major transformation. In real estate, same thing. You can use the blockchain to keep track of title, and then you can use cryptocurrency. You can use currencies and tokenize pieces of real estate. Well, that's going to change the nature of real estate. So we're going to go through major changes in the biggest industries in the world, and you get to be a part of it. Here's a question. It's cheaper for me to physically mail currency from Canada to Europe than to wire transfer it. Well, actually, it's cheaper for me to just, if I need to send you money, I can just go here's, I go into my Coinbase account, I shoot it to you, or I use my ledger, and that it doesn't even have any friction on it. I can send from my ledger to your account with zero transaction costs and zero time cost. You don't have to call anybody or mail anything or whatever. Yeah, I can see that. Physically mailing currency is, it seems like the dark ages. But if that's better than wiring it, the banks are really screwed up. So these are some of the industries you can go after, and go after them in a narrow way. Go after them with strong technology where you can wedge into the industry with some product that just delights the customers, and then grow within that industry and go after those big ones. What's my view on sustainability and what opportunities you see for manufacturers of physical products were still necessary but are facing various logistics issues due to COVID? Yeah. I guess I'll take those two separately. Sustainability, there are two forms of sustainability. If you're a business, the way you are sustainable is that you make money. Go make money. Make sure you're making money or you're not doing anybody any favors. It doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit or a for-profit, figure out how to make money and figure out who your customer is and make sure that that customer can pay for the service. And so then you can grow your service and you can provide better service. If we're talking about sustainability of the planet, it's kind of interesting that the lockdown has actually brought back some species and animals, and we've been because we're locked down, the rest of the animal kingdom has come back. And I don't know whether it's had any impact on global warming. But, and then the other piece of this question is actually more interesting because, governments are also feeling that they are threatened potentially by you and all of your interesting new ideas because they've always been tribal. They've always been tied to physical borders. And they've always had this way of thinking that I am in control of all the people around me and I tell them all what to do. And they've kind of jumped on this as like, yeah, wear a mask, stay 6 feet away. We're going to keep you here. You cannot fly out of this country. You cannot fly into this country. They're trapping people in place. They're putting us back into our tribes because that maintains their power base. I argue that we are all better off with free trade. We are all better off with open borders. The world is better off. And here's how I'll make that argument. If I have a house and you have a farm and we're the only two people around, then I die of starvation and you die of exposure if we haven't made a deal, if we haven't somehow cut a deal. Multiply that by 8 billion people around the planet, and that's a lot of deals and a lot of liquidity and a really high quality of living around the world because we have open trade. I think anytime you put up a trade barrier, you put up a wall, it's a bad idea. We all suffer. Anybody inside the country that has a trade war going on suffers. Anytime there's a limitation on trade, the people suffer. They go back to a time, 10, 20, 30 years back. When China starts to isolate and they're not allowing people or money out of the country, they're going to slowly head back in time. They're going to miss out on all the new advantages, all the new technologies, all the trade that happens in the rest of the world. They should be very aware of this, and they lose also. When your government is oppressive, you lose all your entrepreneurial spirit, and everybody sucks up to the government, and you have a horrible situation. Well, we're going into a time, and I call it the death of the roaring lion. The old lion, just before he dies, makes this huge roar that the entire forest hears, and then he dies. Well, right now, tribalism is going through that huge roar. They are saying, no, we want, go back to fiat currency, go back to living in place. Don't travel anymore. We want you here. We want you in this place. And it's just before the tribalism dies and we become one big global, open, transparent world, and it'll be more peaceful, more loving, and much more wealthy and much more productive than the world of the tribalism. Okay, a couple more other questions. What rubric would I use whether or not companies will succeed post-COVID? I think my rubric will be roughly the same. You want to go after really interesting technologies and apply those to industries that are getting frothy, industries that are operating as monopolies or oligopolies. Think the drug company, the pharma, big pharma, anything where it's big pharma, the big three accounting firms, the big what do they call it? The big banks, the big I don't know, the big fat banks. Those industries are ripe for the picking because they're living high. They have this great deal, big margins, and they are not providing great service for their customers. And that's a great place for an entrepreneur to head. And so post-COVID, I don't think I'd change my thinking too much, except that I do know that about half the people really like working from home. But I think over a long period of time, I think they're going to want to get to the office and start traveling again, and we'll be back to where we were, or maybe even further advanced. Do you believe in
Tim, I think we can have Brandon and Mohammed ask you their questions directly. So Brandon, do you want to ask Tim your question directly?
Sure. Yeah. Hi. So you were talking about banks and insurance companies and whatnot, and they're all obviously quite tightly regulated. You're talking about how blockchain can be used to fix that. Are you suggesting that these should be operated more as a platform and sort of sidestep regulation, or at least existing regulations until regs catch up?
No, I'm suggesting that regulators need to get on board. Regulators need to start thinking of, I should be able to raise a fund in Bitcoin, invest it in Bitcoin, have the entrepreneurs pay their employees and suppliers in Bitcoin, and then have my investors all get a Bitcoin wallet where they receive all their money, and the taxes should be paid in Bitcoin. There's no reason this shouldn't happen, except that the regulators are just way behind. I think because they're going to benefit, they're going to have probably more taxes because I'd be paying it in Bitcoin, and we don't have the dilutive effect of $9 trillion plugged into the marketplace. So I think that we're at a point where, when China made Bitcoin illegal, the guys who started Binance, they moved to Singapore, and Singapore got heavy-handed in regulation, and then they moved to Malta. And something interesting happened in Switzerland too, which was the Swiss had the tiger by the tail with the ICO business, and it was a big business for them. And all of a sudden they thought big business, and they went and they regulated it. And so everybody left there and went to Gibraltar or Malta or wherever to do their ICOs. And Switzerland said, no, come back. And so I think those regulators are going to have to get on board, or they will suffer long term. They'll have a brain drain from their country. I mean, not allowing airdrops, huge mistake. Having startups have to face the SEC before they've even shipped a product, huge mistake. There are some big, huge mistakes out there where you've got to let stuff run for a while, where entrepreneurs can go do stuff and experiment and build a technology and see if customers will jump on it. And then you can see whether it's something that needs to be regulated. I think the regulators, like the politicians, jumped in a little heavy-handed. And then they're kind of going, well, maybe we shouldn't be a little so heavy-handed. Let's just learn about it for a while. So yeah, interesting question too. You can see that they're a dark cloud over innovation right now.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Tim. Mohammed, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Hi, team. Thank you so much for your time and sharing a lot of great experience that you have. So I have a question about like investors and entrepreneurs or founders. So usually investors diversify their portfolio by investing in multiple companies. So if some of them go wrong, they still can actually get the return. But usually founders are doing all in. So basically they invest all their times and lives in one company until either go well or go wrong. So what do you think, founders should do to reduce their own risk, especially in this current situation that the chances of companies go wrong is more?
This is a great question. Part of me says entrepreneurs are all in because they're all in, because they're trying to change the world, but they also have lives to lead. So entrepreneurs need to somehow get some cash to run their business. But diversifying their portfolio, I think everybody has a slightly different tolerance for that. Elon, he's diversifying by creating like 4 companies instead of just 2. But still they're 4 very high risk, high reward companies. And I think that is a good way to operate. At Draper University, I tried to do something where everybody shared in the success of each other. And then I realized, and at Draper, way back when with the Draper Venture Network, I tried to get it so all the entrepreneurs would benefit from each other within a class or something. The accountants killed us. It just costs so much money for so little benefit that just to do the accounting, even though it's just a spreadsheet, which is what I kind of kept explaining to them, they said, no, this is, your bill is going to be, whatever it was, millions of dollars for a very small positive effect. Now that could all change with a blockchain, because with a blockchain, it keeps a perfect ledger. Accountants have to figure out some other way to serve their clients, because the bookkeeping part of it and the ledger part and the auditing part gone, because you've got a perfect ledger that is the blockchain, and it does it all for you. That's why I really do want to have a Bitcoin fund that just does this stuff. So I think that we're going to go through a transition there, and maybe if you did it all in Bitcoin, you could be fully diversified. But right now the accountants say, no, you have to translate it to dollars and then do your work, and then you translate it back to Bitcoin. So it doubles your accounting costs if you do it in Bitcoin today. But if the regulators recognize that they could just tax Bitcoin the same way they tax dollars or any other currency, they will be much more open, and there will be a big accounting lobby that will be fighting them, but they'll be much more open to something like this. And yeah, then you can be better diversified. As an entrepreneur, you're hanging out there. It's tough.
So yeah, actually, exactly my question is the things that you mentioned, that you tried to get like a small shares in, a batch of companies. They try to have a small shares in each other's companies in order to diversify. So the only bottleneck for that was accounting, or do you have any suggestions? Because I was thinking about this a lot.
Yeah, it was the accounting costs. It was the accounting costs. I was thinking, okay, hey, I've got a new fund. Why don't I let all my companies in the fund own pieces of each other, or a piece of the carry? They've got 100 rules why you can't do that.
Thank you so much.
So maybe with the new countries that deregulate and open up, we'll have a big opportunity there.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Reggie, you want to ask a question?
So try it, Mohammed, anyway. Keep pushing.
Sure.
Tim, I'm Reggie from Indonesia. I'm your fans. 12 hours different than yours. So my question is, what will be the opportunity for altcoin in the future? And the second one is actually the utilization of a blockchain and traceability on agriculture sectors. How do you see the opportunity moving forward?
Well, on altcoin, the success of altcoin is how excited engineers are to work on it. Like Tezos has a huge flood of entrepreneurs that are all jumping on because it's a better governance and it's a better smart contract than we've seen in any other currency in the past. And then, like the Aragon, it has a bunch of engineers kind of going after it because it's a new form of governance, and that could be kind of interesting for a lot of people. So the winning altcoins are going to be the ones that have the engineering efforts applied to them. So Bitcoin clearly will be the biggest winner of all of those because they're doing all the DeFi and everything else around Bitcoin. But others with a lot of engineers and a lot of engineering support around them are going to do very well. So that's that part. The agricultural thing is kind of interesting. I've seen a couple of companies saying that they're going to track where it was farmed to the store, to the restaurant, to your mouth. And there are probably all sorts of IoT. It's a food, they call it a food chain. That's a food chain. And I think it can benefit a lot by having a permanent record attached to each asset. So it's going to happen. There will be agricultural benefit from the blockchain. Okay, Joseph Thompson asked about decentralized digital ID. I think, what makes digital ID a winner? I think that's the right approach. It's pretty interesting. All these security companies are playing whack-a-mole, and the moles keep popping up, and you're whacking them down. That game, you hit the moles. It's interesting because I think that the real solution is going to be identity. It's going to be, who is this person? Are they the person who owns this cryptocurrency? And that is going to drive a lot. Or are they the ones who are saying, apparently I've got 15 Instagram accounts that I never started, and that people are trying to get rid of. Well, if there's my identity there, then everyone's going to know which one is the real thing. And that I think is going to be very powerful. So get identity right, and you don't need so much effort and money and time dedicated to security. You're going after it the right way. I think it's going to be a big opportunity. I don't know who is going to be the winning digital ID company, but they're probably going to combine a bunch of data items, where you are, what your iris looks like, what your fingerprint looks like. I don't think that the world 5 years from now is all going to be about passwords. I just don't. People hate them. And they keep changing, and you have to keep changing them, and they're hackable. They're all digital, so I don't think it's passwords. But anyway, let's see. Raghi, two questions. What do you?
I think he already asked the question live. So, but Tim, if we could switch gears a little bit, there was a question in the healthcare space, and you were going to cover that anyway. So, Ilan, did you want to ask your question right now?
Sure, happy to ask the question. Thank you. When you put together people, market, and technology, and you take also together COVID-19 with the huge change it is doing, I think it's clear that the food is going to change. We are on one hand putting tons of money on curing disease and at the same time poisoning all the society. We at MI do that by making the first healthy sweetener. But how do you see the future of the food system to fix what is going on now?
Good to have a healthy
substance and the value chain that is also changing.
Good to have a healthy sweetener, because all those other sweeteners seem to be cancer causing, except maybe sugar. But even sugar may be cancer causing.
Sugar is cancer causing. I can give you a lot of data on that.
Yeah. I think that healthcare in general is going very much digital. You can see it in a lot of different ways. You see it in in using in doing diagnostics. We have a company that just takes everybody's healthcare records and then does diagnostics on their whatever their ailment is, and they are doing a better job than the average doctor is just through the data. And when combined with a doctor, they do even better. So diagnostics is all going digital. Therapeutics through COVID is also going digital. What you're finding is that the dry labs operate much more efficiently than the wet labs do. The dry labs they use computational chemistry, and they put the disease up here, and then they run a bunch of off-patent drugs against it, and they go, hey, this thing that was working for AIDS might work for COVID. And that doesn't happen when you're sitting there with beakers and test tubes and pouring something into. That doesn't happen very quickly. That happens much, much further down the line. So using computational chemistry to do at least simulate the outcomes is going to eventually do a better job of not just efficacy, but also safety. And you're going to find that the FDA starts using computational chemistry to determine whether they want to approve something or not. And that, and eventually that computational chemistry will do a better job than the FDA of determining.
I'm already doing that. That's my profession, and the FDA is using it for allergenicity already.
Yeah. And so it's healthcare is all the future of healthcare is all specific to you, and it's all digital. It's not one drug fits all anymore, and pharma is going to fight that very hard, tooth and nail. Pharma, and in your case, the sugar manufacturers, the equal manufacturers, all the artificial sweeteners. They're going to fight you all the way, because even though you've proven that this is safer and better sugar, better sweetener, they are going to, it takes a while to get the truth through a government or through the media. Clearly through the media. The truth doesn't come very clearly right now.
Thank you. Love your answer.
Thank you. And thank you, Tim. We have another question from Jume in Ireland. Jume, would you like to ask the question?
Maybe I can read it.
While she comes on, I'll ask the question. Her question is about Draper University and how do CEOs evolve to lead startups to IPO or exit?
So Draper University is different from the typical sort of startup boot camp. Eventually, we'll have those services too, but that's kind of the old world. We're after the individual, and we're figuring out how to get that individual to have the gumption and the determination and the sensitivity, but also the drive to get something changed in the world. That's where we focus. We focus on heroism and leadership and drive and perseverance. We're focused on those things that make great entrepreneurs. And so we have attracted people from all over the world. We've had now 1,200 students, and we attracted people from all over the world. People's experiences are unbelievably great. We we do some very unusual things with the people to get them to be super resilient and to become heroes. COVID shut it down for our spring term and our summer term. It's a 5-week program. And our team there was resilient, and they came up with an online school. So, and it turned out the online school was very effective. They did it mostly through Zoom and Slack, and they did a really nice job, and people came out feeling great about the online school. So we hope, we will have a fall session in October where it's Draper University in person. But each month now we have a Draper University online 2-week program that people seem to love. And it's all about becoming an entrepreneur and getting your business model right. But it also has a lot of teamwork and leadership and sacrifice and all the things that you have to have as an entrepreneur. So, Draper University had to do a switch and try new things with the COVID world. And so we did. And I highly recommend it. It's been a tremendous experience for a lot of people. They've come from 86 different countries. They've started 400 different companies, and they tend to be great deal flow for me. They send me all their friends and relatives who are starting businesses. And then they have, it's interesting, they come out of Draper University, they get promoted very quickly if they go to a big company. Their businesses seem to have more energy associated with them because if they start one. And if they go back to school, they get their PhD a lot faster than they would have otherwise, or their master's. So we think that this training the human, the hero, really does have a very positive effect on, it sort of accelerates people. I guess that could go badly where they get accelerated into a black hole, but we have been accelerating people.
Thank you, Tim. And she also has a follow-up question that how do you buy a Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's so funny that it's not hard to do. You get an account on Coinbase, or you buy yourself a ledger, and Ledger's the French company, so you might want to do that. It's pretty easy. And then with a ledger, you plug it into your computer. With Coinbase, you just go and you attach a bank account to it, and you fill it and buy any number of different cryptocurrencies. It's not hard. And if you're stuck in place, you got time. And once you've done it, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. And given that the dollar is going to go through, and all the fiat currencies are going to go through this inflationary period where they're worth less and less over time, we think that this is actually a good time for you to go ahead and buy one. At least that's what I'm doing. I don't give out recommendations, but that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Tim. Another question on, as the stage at which a lot of these startups are, the next growth cycle for them is to scale. So what advice can you give to these companies as they decide to grow on that path?
There's a great book that, who wrote it? It might be Principles by Ray Dalio that talks about scaling. It's really good. The key with scaling is to scale your customers, but not scale your employees as quickly. And a lot of that has to do with if a big venture capitalist gives you a ton of money, just turn that into a war chest and don't touch it if you can. A lot of companies have been destroyed by this scale period where they figured something out. They've got a bunch of customers that are really happy with it, and they're providing a great service. And then they get a whole bunch of money, and then they just go and they hire and hire and hire, and they spend and spend and spend. And that can be the end of a great company. Happened with WeWork, almost happened with Uber. And it happened with countless other smaller companies that people haven't heard of because they got their $10 or $50 million and just blew it, hired too many people, and then firing people is a lot harder. And so then they kept thinking, well, we'll make it up in volume, and they never did. So that's one thing. I think that's one of the things that can go wrong in scaling. And if a venture capitalist puts a lot of money into you and then sits on your board and keeps saying, you got to spend more, you got to push this, just kind of nod your head and do what you know is right and grow your company organically. That tends to be a better way to go. I've seen so many companies that got the big venture funding in an industry, and then they crashed and burned, and then the one that grew organically goes shooting right by them. Now, that's not to say that you take the money, because you may need it, and it also gives you all sorts of optionality and flexibility as you grow your business. The other thing about scaling is, I think you want to, as a great entrepreneur, you were micromanaging everybody, and you were watching over what every single person did. And you can do that until a company gets to be a certain size, and then you really need to trust your loot, and you need to get really good people in there that can that you have full confidence in, where you can just say, you take that over. And sometimes that means that you break it into P&L responsibilities, and sometimes it just means that you completely delegate the marketing, or completely delegate the finance or the technology or whatever it is. And that's a skill set that few entrepreneurs are able to achieve. And you never really want to lose that micromanaging. You never want to lose it completely. You always have to be able to check back in with these guys, but you also need to be able to delegate, because you won't have the time to manage all those people and drive the customers and drive the product as a company gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Thank you, Tim. Actually, you answered a few great points there, which was, you grow your customer base, not your employees. Delegate more prudently as you grow the business. And you answered also some of the points, which was my next question, on elements of risk that are associated with scaling and growth. So another question, Tim, and we heard about this when we started the bootcamp and in some of the sessions where, Young and Kehi and Lip-Bu and even Jerry Yang, we're talking about catching the right wave and then riding the wave to success. And one of the questions I'd asked them at that point was, what if you miss the wave? And then you need to, pull yourself in and prepare for the next one. What advice do you have there?
Don't be distraught if you miss the wave. Technology advances very quickly, and and every year, Moore's law says it's every 18 months. The capabilities, the technology doubles. So like $1,000 worth of compute power doubles every 18 months. Well, if that's the case, you miss one wave, you're going to see another one come 18 months later with something that's twice as powerful. So you're going to catch a bigger wave. And that's definitely true in this period of time. We're about to face waves that, where we were, talking about unicorns getting to be $1 billion company. I think we're going to be seeing many trillion-dollar companies out of this next wave, the wave, the Bitcoin, blockchain, artificial intelligence, surveillance, machine learning, kind of that wave. That's going to be a big, big wave. So don't miss that one. And then there are little eddies that are waves, but they're not quite that important that you can miss, and it's not that big a deal as long as you're a part of the thing that's really getting transformed. And then there was very bright people, and they're right in some ways. Vivek Ranadive, though, just said, as he built TIBCO, he said, well, I said, what's your secret to success? And he said, well, it's just keep making it better for the customer. Just keep making it better. Just incrementally make it better. Just keep asking your customer what they want and give them something that's even better than what they want.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to break.
Yeah. No worries, Tim. Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed this, and I hope you all have incredible companies. And feel free to contact me when you have a business plan. Don't send me, spam, or you'll be in my delete list. But if you have a business plan, send it to me, tim@draper.vc. We'll take a look at it. We'll see whether it fits into our model. And if it doesn't fit, know that there are a lot of other venture capitalists out there, more and more and more. So don't be disheartened. And often it takes 50 or 60 meetings before you actually get the funding you need. But during those meetings, you slowly improve your thinking about what this business will end up being. So it's a process. And so don't worry too much if somebody says no. It's just you haven't given enough pitches yet. You haven't gone through the process of improving your business model, all that. So anyway, I know you guys are on. XTC generally has a lot of great entrepreneurs. So, I'm looking forward to seeing some great business plans. Tim@draper.vc. Sorry, I have to go.
Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate it.